uncertainty that shows up saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want, and I don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. And so to me, the prosperity alignment piece starts coming in when there are plenty of tools out there for us to start going towards or attracting in to say, I think that's me, right? And we're constantly bombarded with so many things, and everybody tells you who they are and who you should be. And you're like, oh, well, should I want this? Or should I go for this? Or should I do this? Or should I be that? And human design gives the clarity because you already chose before you came here. However, that doesn't make sense to our brains here on this planet, but you already knew what you wanted to work on, who you wanted to be. And who we want to be, we don't choose to come in and just emanate that. We choose to hide it from ourselves and have the whole world tell us who we're not, so that somehow the pain or the learning comes through that growth opportunity to direct us in to this space of, oh, wait a minute, that's actually me.
Welcome to the Conscious Broadcast. I'm Danielle Kane, and I'm happy to have a wonderful, lovely guest here with me today, Alana Heim. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her background and experience and how we met. But let's first go into, she is the owner and soul essence of Prosperity Alignment. She serves in the unique role of being a Cosmic Prosperity Activator, guiding you to navigate the energetic currents beneath your work, life, and money so you naturally flow in the river of infinite prosperity. And she's also a certified public accountant, a personal financial specialist, and a certified financial planner. And she pairs these unique things together with her experience, kind of with an out-of-box thinking, human design expertise, gene key guidance, quantum alignment systems, training. It keeps going on. I mean, I love it. She's got the shamanic remote energy healing. This is something that I didn't know you were doing. Sound channeling, intuitive wisdom, so you can align with your design. So welcome to the Conscious Broadcast.
Yay. Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that you could be here. I mean, you have quite a bio.
Yes. And it's across the spectrum.
Yes.
And more as I know myself and realize why I had to be, let's say, in the financial world to kind of know the systems. And now I'm unlearning those systems because I know we're headed in a different direction on the planet. It's like pairing all of the pieces together, the strategy, but intuition, or it's like we see science and religion and just like these parts that are all connected, but we try to separate.
Absolutely. So Alana, tell me how you became an accountant. Tell me a little bit about the drive of like how you got started, and then maybe go into the shift that you went through to get to where you are today.
Yes. So I love numbers and I love math. And that's very rare. I find more and more that most people don't necessarily love those aspects of like something you learn in school. And I did not love the numbers in the way of science. So I knew I wasn't going to go engineering or science, like where you really have to dive into like probabilities or just, I don't know, all of the different aspects of it.
The nitty-gritty of like long... Right. Calculus.
And triangles for engineering and like what is I don't think at all in that way. What I knew is that's what I loved. So to go into college, I was undeclared. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, when you take a pause and think, okay, 18, your brain is still developing. You're barely like an adult that even knows what you're doing, and you're supposed to just choose your life path. So most of us don't really know, or we think we do, and then guess what? We change it later. So for me, it really was like a great stepping stone into realizing, okay, I have this love of numbers. I did take an accounting class when I was a senior. And so it was like, okay, I took the aptitude test, did all the stuff, and it basically was saying I could be, the crazy one. It was like, at airports, like I could have been that person that like navigated. I don't know. That just seems crazy. It was like, who's in the flight control? Like, and I was like,
I have a family member that does that.
And so it's like, I just remember that going, oh God, that doesn't seem appealing.
That's daunting. I don't want anyone to crash. No, not my responsibility.
But yet there was something in the way of accounting. And then I really saw how it could tie to business. And it's kind of like the way of the world is business. And that felt like an easy path. And yeah, I just kind of fell into it. And I loved numbers and loved the accounting. It was kind of easy. But what you find is most people detest it or even hate accounting. And if they try accounting, they usually go the finance route in business school. And it was just one of those pieces of knowing, okay, I'm here to help in some way, and business seems to be the way of the world. So let's do that. And then even when I got into accounting, there's so many avenues really with being an accountant, becoming a CPA. And I had to do it all. I had to do auditing, right? I got to go to casinos and do cash counts and do cool stuff, but really kind of boring. Let's be honest, to sit and watch the same thing. I kind of knew I don't want to do the same thing every day. And so then people would say, but you're an accountant. Don't you do the same thing every day? No, because I got to be in audit or the financial accounting part or bookkeeping or payroll or taxes. And then taxes is like its own whole big world of whether it's personal or if it is more tied to business or philanthropic or estates and trust. So I went the tax route because what I found is when you tell someone you're an accountant, they assume you're a tax accountant. And everybody's like, ooh, I have a question. And so I just knew like that felt like I could be of service in that way, right? Let me go this route. So getting into taxes, accounting in the sense of like, how does it tie to you personally, became the CPA, became the CFP. And I don't know, I just kept always seeing things bigger. And it's very interesting because it's really who I am. I see the bigger picture. I see how things are so interconnected, but yet even in accounting, there are people who they're good at this one part of it. They don't know all the moving pieces. And so even if you do know tax, there's still so many niches. Do you know international tax? Right? Do you know corporate tax, but do you know it from the level of, is it a public company or is it private? You know what I mean? Like it's there, you can be in this little space of like, I know this part, but there's all these other parts. And you start to realize, okay, you can be specialized, but I didn't want to be like specialized. I always wanted to keep expanding. And I think that's why I then even had to leave the whole accounting world and like go into the big wide world of consciousness and evolving into our spirituality, all the energy, all the stuff. So that's why I kind of have like this dynamic spread of, okay, that she's an accountant, but yet she does energy work. Right. You know what I mean?
You kind of reminded me of when you were telling me like you like numbers. I'm just seeing like the matrix in the screen, right? And then there's you like seeing the big picture and seeing the whole thing like from a consciousness level and not just, it's almost like you see through the numbers, not just numbers.
Right. It's and amazing. When you think of like numbers tied to sacred geometry or frequency and vibration, and there's still a part of me that just senses things, and I'm good with that. I don't need to know how it works scientifically. Like there really isn't anything scientific, which is fascinating because in a way accounting kind of is very structured and logical and left brain. And I was just telling my husband, like our son was asking a question about flying or something, and he's gonna be a scientist, right? And I was like, I still don't really get how planes work. And my husband's like, what? You don't understand lift? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, and I'm like, I don't even need to know, right? Like it's just, to me, I just see the vastness of this is genius. And I know there's science that says, well, this happens, but just the miracle of even with winds and all the stuff, like this plane can take off. And then, it led me to feeling it's like the miracle of growing a human and
Mm-hmm.
how the body knows. And we don't understand that scientifically, how all the cells know which
Right.
cell and all the parts. Like I don't need to know. I just can like marvel in creation itself and realize like somebody gets it. Doesn't have to be me. And each and every one of us on the planet are stepping into these parts where we see a part of the puzzle, and we're starting to click in and know that like I don't have to try and jam myself into the puzzle when I don't fit here. Like
Right.
I need to be somewhere else and use my gifts differently.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I loved how you talked about finding the pieces of your own puzzle. Like when you come in here, no one gave us a user's manual on how to like use this body and how to connect deeply to the things that are innate, or that's the whole point, is as we follow the process. And we'll talk about human design in a minute. That's where I really found fascinating, like the things that were natural based on my human is explained in these modalities. And so you've kind of found your own roadmap and discovery
Yes.
through human design, gene keys, and again, you have all these other things that you've got going on. You tell me the toolkit. What is it that you ultimately like to package up together to help people?
Right. So because I do come from the financial side, I see it more as this lens of prosperity. So
Mm-hmm.
my business is prosperity alignment. That is my soul essence. Went on a branding journey. That's what came through. That's who I am. And that's really what I see the world through is we are meant to align with prosperity. And
Mm-hmm.
that comes from inside of us. Yet we tend to take it and focus outwardly on, this book and these crystals and all this stuff. Like that's prosperity.
Right.
When it's you are the essence of it all and you can have it all. And from the financial world, it's very left brain. It's very much, okay, Danielle, you're starting a business. Let's come up with your business plan and
Yes.
let's lay it out and let's basically dictate to the world how this is going to happen. Except the how is not for us to determine. The how is the miracle of God or source coming in to bring things to you.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest piece is recognizing in ourselves what we even want. And I know as women, we don't always know because it's not about us. And we were trained young to take care of everybody else, take care of our family, kids, partner, like, right. There is no room for us. And so even to see people in transition, maybe it's a client who is leaving a relationship or there's a health issue or their kids are grown and now they're moving on. It's like that place of uncertainty that shows up saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want, and I don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, the prosperity alignment piece starts coming in when there are plenty of tools out there for us to start going towards or attracting in to say, I think that's me. Right. And we're constantly bombarded with so many things, and everybody tells you who they are and who you should be. And you're like, oh, well, should I want this? Or should I go for this? Or should I do this? Or should I be that? And human design gives the clarity because
Mm-hmm.
you already chose before you came here. However, that doesn't make sense to our brains here on this planet, but you already knew what you wanted to work on, who you wanted to be. And who we want to be, we don't choose to come in and just emanate that. We choose to hide it from ourselves and have the whole world tell us who we're not, so that somehow the pain or the learning comes through that growth opportunity to direct us in to this space of, oh, wait a minute, that's actually me.
Mm-hmm.
So prosperity can be money, but I really see it's health and well-being, it's your spirituality, it's your relationships, it is your career, your work, how you're here to be of service. And if you don't know what those parts are, you're pushing against the prosperity flow, right? It's like you're in this river and we should just be creative and right brain and just like be in flow and trust and surrender and let the river take us.
Mm-hmm.
But we're usually like, I said my business plan is going to be this, and I am going to get upstream and I'm going to fight the current. And we make it hard on ourselves. And what that leads to is exhaustion, burnout, stress, health issues, lack of money, whatever, right? We end up in the fear and the lack and the scarcity mindset.
Yes, I can totally relate to all those things. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about, well, let's share what you are, if you don't mind. Let's go into your human design, since that's like definitely one of the things that you and I've talked about. And I know that you're really quite the expert in human design. So tell us a little bit about what you are, and then how you go about, if you want to even share with me, or if you want to do like a sample of like how you help somebody, we could do that too.
Sure. So I'll show you my chart. So this is a chart, and this is mine specifically. And so you'll see there's like all kinds of information. There's centers, and there's a lot of components of this that comes from the Chinese I Ching, Eastern and Western astrology, Judaic Kabbalah, the Hindu chakra system, quantum physics. I mean, like, we have all these different systems that are actually just a part of this. And it's your blueprint. It's your blueprint of who you chose to be energetically. So it's a map. And the planets are, if we want to zoom out, right? I always see big picture. The planets are the macro cosmic energy that come into our planet on a microcosmic level. So think of that microscopic or microcosmic. It's like you're coming in to say what is here, so within, so without, as above, so below, right? It's, we can track and know, well, if we can say what's going on up here, we actually take on those same qualities, those same energies. And the Chinese I Ching, there's 64 hexagrams. And so this ancient system has such wisdom, and we tap into it and we can say, oh, well, here's what they knew. And they could see it from 6 lines, and it could just already paint a picture or tell a story without words. So now we're starting to go into more of the frequencies and the energies that are out there, but they're part of you. And so now if we can really like kind of take apart and discern, you know, like whatever's colored in, that's the energy that I put out. All the white is my openness to receive the world around me. And so what I see with human design, it's like, I already can see the things that my clients aren't going to tell me. And because the skepticism can come, I just want to share that there's a quote from JP Morgan that said, millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do.
Really?
Because they've kind of had the answers for a long time, right? Like, I really believe, I never enjoyed history. There's no numbers there. There kind of can be in dates, but there's this story. And I've always felt like the story is wrong, right? So that's why to read Dolores Cannon or to go into certain things and start having access to information. And I'm like, that's it. Like that feels true. Yes. Whereas our history is somebody's story from one perspective, and it usually doesn't paint the whole picture. It's very jaded. It makes it to be the hero's story for whoever's telling it. And you can just see that subjectivity is there. Versus I feel like human design is very objective. You don't get to think this is who I am. Like, if you take the Enneagram, you get some numbers, but like a lot of these tests or personality codes, DISC, whatever it may be, you're answering how you think you should answer. So you're already in your head. Your head is already going to be in its own story of who it thinks you should be or not. And this using birth date, birth information to just take this snapshot of what's going on. And now you can internalize it and start to see that, holy crap, like astrology, usually people were like, oh, your horoscope, that could be anybody. Right. And human design goes into astrology, but we go even deeper. So it's like within the house, where are those gates or those hexagrams sitting? Which line at that particular moment, which line of the hexagram where it was, what's the planet sitting in. And then even deeper, you can go into color and tone and base. So it's like we just keep getting more and more finite into who are you and what are these pieces. So I can see it and look at it and go, oh, I get it. Like, you know, I might have a client, usually they want to either start a business or they're in business. There's plenty of coaches out there who will tell you what they think you should do and basically who they think you should be, which is them. And so you try it and it doesn't work and you get frustrated and then you go in your head and you beat yourself up because you're like, oh, I must suck because this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
You don't suck. You're amazing. The problem is you're trying to be someone you are not. And this is where I get to see the energy and already just like help make little shifts in clients to say, well, okay, first of all, you were pushing and you're actually designed to wait, right? So for you specifically, like you're a generator type, you're here to wait, to respond to whatever shows up, which means you have to wait for that thing to show up. So you might have an idea.
That you say that because, you know, every time I'm like, man, I need to be proactive.
Right. Because that's so conditioned in us.
Yes.
Think of it from our parents, from school, the media, like everything is like, you need to get out there. You need to think fast. You need to make a fast decision. You just need to make it happen. There's only 9% of the population that actually are designed to do that.
Wow. Do you find that anyone has ever shocked you that it has responded different from their human design chart?
In what way?
Like that they actually function very different from their design?
Not usually.
Never.
And if they know, and some things we can kind of coast or kind of get by with, but the true
essence of that person, like maybe they were doing something because they were programmed to do it, or, you know, it's habit, when really they want to be who their design is.
Right. And you can in business just get caught up in the rat race and be on the hamster wheel and make money and think you're successful. But then if we take a look at the whole prosperity picture, how's your health?
Yeah.
How's your relationships? Right? Like let's see the wheel for everything that's really important. And the people who are very focused and driven, right? We see that in society. We see that in the billionaires. We see that in the people who are at the top. They picked one thing and they focused on it. And maybe they did figure out for themselves like how something really works and they had to own it, right? So think of most people who are very successful, wealthy, elite on our planet. They do have like a rags to riches. Or even if you want to say like former President Trump, right? Like he had his moments of still being bankrupt and then being successful. Yeah. And it's like, but that willingness to keep pushing or to try, most of us aren't willing to do that. Are you willing to go after what you want and potentially lose it all? And most of us are so afraid to even have it. We don't want to go for it, you know? So it's these parts of like trial and error and experimentation or whatever your design is. It's following that. But then even some of them, if you really just want to focus everything on money and just be the best of the best, if you really look and take apart the people who are at the top, are they still married? Do they have a family? Does their family love them? Were they even there when their kids were growing up? How's their health? You know what I mean? So it's like, we can think we're successful in this one area, but I look at it as we really truly have to define what success is for us personally on all the levels. Because even when I think like, oh my gosh, I'm finally getting it right, like things are going well in business, then that's usually when my family pulls me back to reality. Is like, you've been working too much and we haven't seen you. And I'm like, okay. So, okay, finding that balance. And that's part of my design. So for me, it's like, I lived in my head and I'm meant to be in my body. Most of us are, but to be in a heady industry of accounting, it's very, very much like corporate, and just do the thing and do the grind and have tax seasons and work hard. And the whole time we're telling ourselves, oh, I'm doing this for my family. Yeah. But are we really, when we don't see our family, we're not with them. They don't know what us.
That's like. We've had that happen to us where we have this vision of starting a business and the business just got a little too far out of reach. And then we're like, why are we even doing what we're doing? This isn't what we wanted. And the universe saved us. And like, we got to find ourselves in the silence of COVID, and that was like a pause. I tell everybody for me and my family, because we were so disconnected. And so how do you help people do you come out with like human design first, show them like, hey, this is you. And then how does it develop after that?
Right. So I usually do lead with human design, and the pandemic had me kind of flip. So most people would find me for human design, and the people who find me for human design, they're already in the spiritual world. They really want to learn about themselves, and they're kind of on purpose, or wanting to find purpose and really know themselves. People in business, 3D worlds, like on the hamster wheel, they want to know more about themselves, but not from a spiritual place. And so the pandemic had me flip, because what I realized is where we're headed on the planet, all the change coming, we are moving into energy and spirituality, and the shakeup of where we've been, the foundation is collapsing, and people are going to know, they're going to really need to know who they are. And that's where I needed to go. So my clients are more financial advisors, bankers, realtors, attorneys, like all the things that that they have a level of success, but their prosperity wheel is probably kind of one-sided, right? Maybe they are those drivers who are like, I just want to be the top of business, and I want to get to be the CEO, or I want to get to be at the top, and just whatever that looks like. But they're in this space of knowing something's missing. There's a calling, or there's something more, or like this can't be it. Kind of like you saying too, realizing like I wanted a business, but I'm not able to be with my family, or I'm not having the balance. So something's missing. And so I lead with human design, and they always give me their birth information. I haven't had anyone say, I'm not doing that. Even my financial advisor client, where I'm like, okay, I use this tool, and it really helps me to know you, to help guide you, so you know you. Right. Because at the end of the day, I want you to know yourself so well. I am not your savior. I am not your forever coach. You can live life and truly be in your prosperity flow, because you're trusting yourself and you're not listening to all the external noise. So I start with human design. I'm always weaving it in. Some people want a reading where they just really want to know, like, tell me everything about myself. So I do that. Some want more of the conversation, consulting, engaging over time. Let's do multiple sessions. And so whether it is weaving human design, gene keys, or separately doing some energy work, because what I also know is you're going to have certain energetic patterns that you've learned to protect yourself. And when you close down your energy, you are not truly in that prosperity flow, to be open to receive the gifts of others' energy, and to know intuitively like where they're coming from and how to help them. You don't know yourself. And so other people's energy can be stuck in your field, blocking you. And I can talk to you all day, but that energy may keep you stuck, right? So it doesn't matter if we're talking and it feels like it's mindset work. There's emotional work. There's all kinds of other pieces we have to tap into. And so that's why I love bringing in the energy piece. And you asked me earlier, what's my type? So there's manifestors, you're a generator. There's a manifesting generator, which is a blend between the two. I'm a projector, which is we guide the energy. We just see the energy in others and want to help. And then there's a reflector, and they're the rarest. And they basically are the reflection of the health and well-being of the planet. And so as a projector, I'm not a doer. And as a CPA sitting at a desk, I was the doer, and it was starting to burn me out. So I needed to move into this place of being that consultant, right? Being the guide. My clients can come to me, and once they start this, like once you see your chart, like source starts bringing you new engagements, interactions, experiences to test you, right? To start showing you where you need to move. And if you constantly were pushing, right? Like, oh, I need to do this thing in business. I just need to push. And now you're learning like, oh, I'm supposed to wait to respond. You're going to have moments that now test you to see, okay, are you going to wait, or are you going to push anyway? Are you going to have that patience, or are you just going to leap when you shouldn't? Those are the things that I can have clients come back. And I love that. I'm the revolving CPA in that way. Come to me when you need support. If you need me to explain it in a practical way, why this is happening, and, help you to see the blessing in it and to learn from it and grow. So now you're moving past it and you're staying more open energetically. That's the key, because life will keep throwing curveballs, whether it's death or loss or grief or trauma, or who knows, just anything in any of the fields of health,
just something to shake
business.
shake up the week, or a bump in the road. There's always something that comes up.
And it's not right now on the planet. It's all accelerated. So we're manifesting faster. So it's making sure we're very clear on what we want, because it's showing up, and all the life experiences are starting to hit more and more at the same time. So it's not just this one thing that your family or you are dealing with. It's like a culmination of all the things. And so to me, that's the part where if we get lost out here in that chaos and overwhelm, it feels so much, and we just want to shut down. We want to numb. We want to tap out, whatever it is. But when you're aligned and you know yourself, and this is a test, and now you're moving through it, and you're starting to be more grounded and present to see when, this used to trigger me and it doesn't upset me anymore. You've done the work. You're doing the healing. You're totally shedding the old. And that's what's needed on the planet right now, is just keep letting go and releasing what's not serving us.
Yes. Oh, I love that you said that. And every time, Alana, that you talk, I always leave with something, always, like something more about myself, or just like making that aha moments. So I thank you for that, because this is why you help people realize that the prosperity is already there. And I want to ask you a couple questions. So like when I look at human design, for example, and I'm trying to explain to people, like you did so beautifully, I should just take that recording and be like, here's what human design is. But you think about people that are like, I'm an Aquarius, right? And then my sister's an Aquarius, but we're totally different. We probably have totally different designs. So this is why it's not just astrology. This goes deeper into, like you said, Eastern medicine. I forget what you called it.
Eastern, Western astrology. And then there is the chakra system and Judaic Kabbalah, quantum physics. There's a culmination of different systems wrapped into
this, as well as in the gene keys gets it broken down even more. But yeah, so my question to you on top of that, so having two different people that have a similar sign, right? Like that might be born near each other, but are completely different types, I guess, in the human design. And then you have the things like the planets. Now I'm hearing like 5 planets are in retrograde right now. Is that true? I mean, so there is some type of external, the universal things happening right now. We can't see it, but a lot of us can feel it right now. Yes. Does it affect, projectors, manifestors, reflectors differently?
All of us in some way. And it depends on what you're here to learn. And that's like the big question of like, and even my 15-year-old was just saying like, okay, I'm starting to really think like, what is the point of life? Like, why are we here? And what, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, ooh, that's huge. And that's huge for you at 15. The main piece is that's what we're all striving to understand for ourselves. And some of us, it's been loud for a very long time. Others are awakening to this, where they're like, wait a minute, why do I just do this grind? Is it really to just pay the bills and like take care of my family, or is there something more? And so we can see purpose in human design and in the gene keys. And I just have to say, it's tied to your beingness, who you be, not what you do. And so a lot of times we're then on this quest of like, I've worked and I know work ties to money and taking care of my family. And if I don't have that, then the fear kicks in of like, I'm going to lose everything and end up on the street and die. Like, right. Like that is our human kind of conditioning, if you will. But really, being has nothing to do with the doing.
Right.
It's just who you are. And there's other aspects we can look at, especially like really the gene keys is just another variation Similarly, taking the Chinese I Ching and pulling it apart and having more of a contemplative experience to sit with these archetypes, to sit with, how does this land? How has this shown up in your life? Where do you see some of your own energetic patterns of how you react when you're triggered physically, emotionally, mentally? And more, that's the stuff we're wanting to shed. So it's like, if there's something that triggers you and you don't even know what that is, you're probably not going to know who you are here to be, but they're tied.
Yeah.
Right. The trigger is getting louder because it's trying to say, hello, let's stop doing this. This isn't working. Right. Or think of the physical body and the ailments and the disease and the sickness that comes in, because it is trying to tell you that energetically something is not working and you're not listening to the body. And the more we try and just throw medicine at it, the more we're not actually going in to say, what does my body need? Like for some reason, I'm around this person and my gut gets really tight and clenches and I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, why do I keep being around this person?
Right.
So it's these subtleties we can lean into and using these different tools to figure out, okay, if this is who I am, then what do I do to be of service? Because that's part of our human nature. We care, we love, we know we're here to help each other. We're not all here to be cave people or lone wolves and think we have to do it alone. But yet the way our systems have been designed, it's very divisive. It's very much you versus them or me versus you. And more we're having experiences to bring us back together, to open our hearts so that we're coming from that place of love and peace and prosperity.
I never realized that. I think I've always been designed in that way when it came to work. And I can recall a time where I was a headhunter. I hate using that word, but I was a recruiter and I worked for an agency. And I remember they kept saying, like, I felt like I needed a tap on or a pat on the back. And I'm like, that's not what I'm feeling. That's not what I'm coming across. I just wanted to be collaborative and cooperative and support the bigger vision, right? Of like helping people find something that they love. And it was just this them against you. And it was just strange. And I remember how it made me feel. It made me feel horrible because then I'm thinking, well, do I need praise? Do I need all this stuff? I'm like, yeah, I want to feel like I'm doing a good job. But I don't think I ever understood that. I'm like, clearly this is not the right frequency for me. And then when I got out, I was like, oh, what are you saying? I don't ever have to enter that reality again? Okay, great. But that experience of interviewing and talking to people all had a purpose later on. Hence now talking to you. But what do you have to say about that, being a generator, being in that space? Like, I didn't know that then, but now looking at it now, I can clearly see that it's just the frequencies were off. They didn't understand where I was coming from. And I clearly was just like, this just isn't for me. I don't know why, but I can't work this way.
Yes. So that's the nature of how our planet has run, is shove yourself into this little tiny box that feels really uncomfortable and make yourself think you're comfortable and do it anyway. So it starts even with our parents raising us and where it already is, you can't do that. You'll never make money at it. You have to just find a job and you have to do it anyway. Or maybe there was that do as I say, not as I do, or because I said so. And suddenly you didn't feel like you had any ability to choose for yourself. And so then we get like enslaved into these systems of work you didn't want to do, but you're like, oh, well, it's a job.
Yeah.
You know, and more like we're in this place of like, it's kind of more the employee's world, not the employer's world, where now you have more choice and you can go, well, I don't really want to work there, but maybe I can work here.
Yeah.
But usually it was like, this is all there is. Pick it, take it, and
it was slim
anyway.
pickings back then when I first got out of college. It really was.
And so we learn to sacrifice ourselves to the whole, to the status quo, to the collective. And so even in human design, we can see there's the individual, which is getting louder. And we've had a lot of planets that we've got a mass transition energetically and through human design up until 2027. Like we're leaving a whole 400-year cycle of energy and moving into something new.
Wonderful.
And so we've known for a long time, like there's big change coming. And so, but we're in that 4D limbo of like, but I still need the job. I still need to pay the bills. And you're telling me at some point I'm going to have a choice and I can just say, screw it. I don't need it. And you can see the limbo was the pandemic already. It was already opening people who weren't happy, who were stuck in their job. They didn't want to do it. And now they kind of started to realize, I don't have to do this. I can go somewhere else. And so in terms of human nature, we see it as pain or pleasure, right? What causes us pain? And even if there isn't pleasure, if this is not that painful, we'll endure it. And what we're finding is the things that are becoming more and more painful, right, is more and more heavy, or health-wise, it is bad for us. The frequency is not there. It is so, I can't be in this. The pain becomes intolerable. And now we're leaving, right? It should be, we go to what energizes us and what we love and all the pieces, but that wasn't the way of the old world. So everything's shifting. And to your point about the charts and you and your sister having similarities, but like being so different, right? I have a set of twins that have identical charts, human design, astrology. They're a minute apart.
Wow.
They're two different souls. So although we can use this tool to say, okay, here's how the energy may happen. Right now, I can see my twins, they're similar in how their energy happens. Like they're both high-low emotional waves. They get really upset and it's like big. But my son is the one who actually is more the one to cry and release his emotions. Whereas my daughter is the one who will hold it in and then implode and become that rage or that tantrum. They're very different. They have similar. So again, when we're looking at energy, there's always a range of expression of it, and it can be very different. And again, this tool answers a lot of questions, but this is why it to me is like, just like all the other modalities of whether you use some numerology or want to go into quantum hypnosis or like all these different pieces of just looking at astrology and looking at the houses, they all tie together. They're all weaving in a truth that you were meant to find out when you were ready. And the truth won't come until you're open to it. Right. So even if I'm explaining certain pieces, it'll only land when you're ready. And that's why when we read books or watch movies again, we almost have a new experience because suddenly we're in a different place to receive the information. And so my twins, they're very opposite, and they are male and female. And so you can see
it's like
some
the
of those
perfect balance of divine masculine and feminine in a way, in your household. And the projectors like you. So that's got to be so fun.
So it's like my husband, my oldest daughter, and I, we're all projectors. The twins are generators.
Oh, they're generators. Okay.
I
thought they were the projectors.
They shook it up where we were like, oh, it's so nice to just like, have it peaceful. And now they're like, we got all this energy. What are we doing? And, and just the different dynamics, because to me, it's all part of the journey of I'm here to learn about me as much as I'm here to learn through them and help them grow. And they're the new energies on the planet. Like the twins are 9 right now. They're still closest to God. They still have some of their consciousness that comes from that place where you can tap into it and help pull it out. And it's the kind of stuff that most parents would go, stop thinking like that. That's crazy. But Hunter knows he's here to be this scientist. He's loved Ghostbusters since he was like 4. And it's just like the way he wants to take apart, and he studies the periodic table. I mean,
That's a lot.
You can't get kids to do these things.
No, they have to want to do that.
It's innately what they're here to shift on the planet, right? And bringing in their individuality. They're not here to follow the status quo. So even if I want to be that force that's like, you need to do this because school says so, and you need to be in this system, it's like, I know they're here to shake up and break down the system. So
right.
I can't raise them in that way. If I really want them to be who they're here to be and not necessarily have the struggle and the challenge and some of the deep growth that we all had to have to get to this place, they're already like less karma, free ride. They're already speaking up and going against authority and just doing things that like most of us learned, like, ooh, I'm not doing that. I'm going to get in trouble. and it's not because they just want to provoke and be a pain. It's who they're here to be, to get people to awaken and realize this isn't working. Stop doing this. It's not working. It needs to change.
Definitely. I have one question regarding the youth. And then I want to go into sharing a little bit about your best-selling author books too, because I want people to know that you have been participating in quite a few. So what do you have to say about the ones that are young, that are definitely connected, but there's this attachment to video games? Like I've seen kids watch video games, including my own, where they'll watch, like we didn't sit around and watch YouTube videos on how to play the game. That happened for a while, and then we kind of eliminated it. And then we did allow some video games, but there's this like attachment to this reality. Can you speak on that or behalf of that?
I don't get it. So even my husband he loves video games. And for me, I'm always like, this is a waste. Like we've got to save the planet. Like, what are you doing? And I feel like there must be something that they get to tap into and in the way of possibilities and the things that we don't see yet physically, right? The things that are impossible you can usually do in these games, or the stories. And because I see this, it's like that with movies and anything. They're not just stories,
right?
They are things we've probably downloaded because it's from our higher self and it's a past life, or we've actually lived this. And part of these stories, like, and I see it in some of the games my kids have played or my husband has, where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like what's going on right now. Yeah. Or I had a mission with my neo-shamanic group where we do big missions to help clear the grids, and there's certain things on the planet, and we knew there's this red dragon that's holding the grids of and darkness on the planet. And like 2 days before, my kids beat like the new Zelda game, and there's the bad guy like turned into this big red dragon, and then here's the princess who's like this bright light white dragon, and I was like,
lots of stories.
Now I have an image. Now I have that to take into that. But it's like I think it's opening certain things, or to learn how to do things, even if it feels like it's so disconnected from reality. It's almost like I don't know that it is
independence in a way, like they can do it on their own. Even with like Minecraft, for example, that's like the newest one. And my kids didn't know how to play, and then learned it through a friend. And it's like, they showed me, they're like, Mom, we can build in this way, and we can then create, and we work together, and it's teamwork. And I'm like, wow, this sounds pretty advanced, and
the things they can do where it's like, oh, I want to create this, but in order to make that, I have to go mine the ore and then do whatever, like all the stuff that I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that in real life. But I feel like they're learning how to build society, civilization, almost like if you want to just say you were in the Matrix to kind of see it and envision and play with it until at some point it becomes real. They're already going to have kind of this sense of, oh, this is what needs to happen. This is what we did in the game. Although we sometimes say, well, that's not reality. That's not, but to a certain extent it is. It's teaching some skills that I still am not attracted to any of that. And I can see where you can get lost in it. It almost wants to like pull you and suck you in, so you're not here in reality. So again, I'm telling it from my perspective where I'm like, okay, my intention, my hope is because that it is useful,
Yeah, well, and I do to some level too. It's like maybe they in like talking about quantum, right? Who knows if they weren't all designers in some level of games? Maybe they even created one of the realities that we partook in, you know?
Right.
You just don't know, but
Yes.
it's because it's not something that my husband and I, we are like, would never have a video game. But somehow through the process of watching something, yeah, even a commercial, there's an attraction to be like, oh, I'm interested in that. Can I watch that? Okay. And then it leads to something else, to then ultimately you find out that your child has a really good knack for something in this video game. And
And the
it makes them excited.
creativity. Yeah, like the creativity. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's like that's where the creativity seems to come out.
yes.
But you know, it's something that we monitor, and we the one thing that we always say is like, this is the real reality. You get to actually really physically touch things in here. And whatever this is, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. Well, thank you for giving me a little bit of your input on that.
Yes.
So let's talk about it. You are a 5-time best-selling author, right? Contributing author. Do you want to share? I guess the one I have here is Abundance by Design, Discover Your Unique Code for Health. And then is the other one Wealth and Happiness with Human Design?
I think that's still like the subtitle.
That's still the
of
same.
First.
Continued. Yep. And what's money got to do with it?
So that's a second book.
Stop overwhelming and start overflowing.
Stop overworking.
Oh, stop overworking.
And that
flowing.
Yep. That's a third one. So the first one, Abundance by Design,
let's talk
stop
about
stop overworking, start overflowing. Those are both human design based books. What's money got to do with it was more of a bunch of financial authors giving different inputs. So I talked more about money. The fourth one is the one behind me, this energy medicine solution. So it's been fun because again, I never do anything the same.
Yeah.
Like ever. So no session. I don't have a structure. I'm not like, this is what we're going to cover. So this one was more energy tools and energy. So talking more about the parts that I hadn't got to write about before. And then the last one is Purpose by Design. That's another human design book. So always like a different version of human design, another story, a different piece of what I learned and how I can kind of express and tie it together. Abundance by Design, that one talks more about money and kind of what we've talked about today, like getting started and leaving the financial CPA world and kind of what I saw and thought I was a generator and leaving that behind. And Stop Overworking, Start Overflowing. I talked more about the whole story is really like me climbing this mountain and doing it by myself. Because again, I don't have sustainable energy. I'm not a generator type. And I always climb this mountain with people who had that energy. And I was like, I want to do this by myself and see how my energy plays out and really how I had to tap into some of my willpower and make myself get to the top and how I wanted to rest and just all these pieces of like along the way, what I'm seeing and learning for myself.
Neat. How did you even get started? How did you get started? Which one was your first book?
Abundance by Design.
Okay. So tell me, did you just start collaborating with others? Did you say, I'm going to write a book today? I want to write a book. That's one on my bucket list. Tell me how.
No, like it's as a projector, I need invitations.
Yeah.
And so the invitation went out through my human design mentor, Karen Curry Parker, that there was this collaborative book and they were looking for people. And there was just like this part of me that was like,
that jumped right out.
I don't know, like, ooh, this feels fun. And then to follow up or like respond in that way and say, ooh, I'm interested and have the conversation. And that it was like, oh, this is a perfect fit. And this is how it works. And so each one, it's been some sort of invitation or somebody connecting me and saying, you need to talk to this person. We're doing a book and you should be in it. And like, that's how the energy works. And so I have had an invitation also like, okay, when are you going to write your book? Like you need to write a book and we'll publish it. And I don't have the book yet. Like I know that it's still not the time or I still need more pieces. I don't know exactly all the parts of what I like a full book, like what that would entail. More and more, I have a sense of like, it's coming. But it's like, I just don't feel that pressure of like, oh, I have the invitation. I should hurry up and do it. I don't know. It's just, so each time I could
That's
lean
really exciting,
into
though. 5 books already. That's wonderful.
Right. Each chapter, and so if I kind of like, realize some of my energy where I can get kind of in inertia if I see too much of the mountain instead of just step by step. It's kind of like, well, that's it, right? You just need to write each chapter and then it slowly becomes a book. And, you know, so part of me is like, okay, it felt a little overwhelming and daunting to think of like, oh God, if you had to write a book and it's like 50,000 words and, you know, like it's a lot. But when it's there, and usually when we're in flow, we just know that it's divine.
It goes right out.
Right.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Awesome stuff. This is great. Well, I know we're getting close to the end of the time here. It's a little bit about what you've got coming up and how we can find you.
Yeah. So prosperityalignment.com. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. And I do a group remote energy session every month. It's usually on a Sunday. It's not a set Sunday. It's where the energies are and what feels like, what's transiting, what do we want to tap into and what needs to be cleared. So it's appreciation based. If people want to join, they can pay whatever they want. If they want their chakras assessed, then I request $44. And it's just, it's amazing. And it's like what I have even my regular clients, like I just asked, do you want me to include you and have them in it? Because each month life happens and new stuff shows up. And if you can clear your field, it's just like an easy way to do that. The other thing, every fall, we go into what I call courage season. Okay. So at the end of September, and it goes through pretty much the beginning of November, we go through the splenic fear gates in human design, all 7 in a row. So it's like 6 weeks of different fears start to come up. So I run a program called Courage to Thrive every fall during that time. So it's like you can not just learn it, but really integrate and embody as the energies are transiting, know what you're experiencing. And then in the spring, those energies go through, the earth goes through, versus right now it's the sun. So it's like just really seeing, how does fear show up in your life? Yeah. And what are you ready to step into in this higher expression of the energy to really be and not let it pummel you, but rather like build you up and bring out that courage in yourself. So it's fun to me. It's like, oh, like more and more I see like how the stuff downloaded.
And I think we're going to need it this year more than any year. They're going to need it. So wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Yes, and any last words you'd like to leave before we wrap up?
Take the breath, take the pause, right? That's what the retrograde planets are really just asking and inviting us to be reflective, be contemplative, make sure that we're not just leaping ahead, that we're really grounded and we're ready to move into what's aligned for us.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for doing that, because it can feel like we have to make an immediate decision sometimes. And there's a lot of unknowns that can bring in that fear rather than trusting that everything will be all right. It's just the way that it is, right? The way it should be.
Yes.
Well, thanks again for joining me today. And I want to thank my audience for joining into this episode. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, please like and subscribe to the Conscious Broadcast, and we will see you next time. Have a lovely day.